On a summer night in June 1992, in a quiet Missouri neighborhood, three women, Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy, vanished from Cheryl's home without a trace. No screams, no struggle, no blood, and no bodies. The question that still haunts Springfield over 3 decades later is, how do three people simply disappear from their beds in the middle of the night without leaving a single clue behind? The investigation would reveal a complex web of theories, suspects, and motivations, but one thing is certain: the fate of these three women remains a mystery that continues to grip the nation. It's a case that would shake the community to its core, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a haunting sense of what if. What if they had stuck to their original plan? What if they had arrived just a few minutes earlier or later? The what ifs would haunt the families, the investigators, and the community for years to come. As we delve into the events of that fateful night, we'll explore the theories, the suspects, and the potential motivations that led to the disappearance of Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy. But for now, let's go back to that summer night in 1992 and try to piece together the events that lead to the vanishing of these three women. It was June 6, 1992, a night of celebration for Susie and Stacy, who had just graduated from Kickapoo High School. The evening was filled with laughter, tears, and promises of a bright future. But as the night wore on, the excitement gave way to a more subdued atmosphere. Cheryl, Susie's mother, had planned a quiet evening at home, while Susie and Stacy had made plans to meet up with friends at a party. The original plan was to stay at Janelle Kirby's house in Battlefield, but in a last-minute change, they decided to head to Cheryl's house on East Del Marie Street, a decision that would alter the course of their lives forever. As we try to understand the events of that night, we're left with more questions than answers. What prompted the change of plans? Was it a spontaneous decision, or was there something more to it? And what about the strange sighting of Cheryl at a convenience store at 2:15 a.m.? Reportedly looking for her daughter and friends? The timeline contradicts itself, leaving us with a puzzle that's yet to be solved. As the clock struck 2:30 a.m., Susie and Stacy arrived at Cheryl's house, unaware of the events that would unfold in the next few hours. The house was quiet. The lights were on and the front door was unlocked. It was as if they were expecting someone or something. But who or what was it? As the night wore on, the house on East Del Marie Street became a scene of quiet activity. Susie and Stacy settled in, folding their clothes, removing their makeup, and preparing for bed. The routine was ordinary, but the events that followed were anything but. The last confirmed phone call from the house was made by Cheryl at 11:15 p.m., and after that, there was only silence. No screams, no struggles, no signs of forced entry or exit. It was as if the three women had vanished into thin air. The investigation would later reveal that the front door was found unlocked, but the house was secure, with no signs of disarray or disturbance. The beds were made, the furniture was in place, and the only sign of occupation was the faint scent of perfume and the soft glow of the TV. It was as if the women had simply gotten up and walked away, leaving behind their belongings, their cars, and their lives. But where did they go? And who, or what, could have taken them without leaving a single clue behind? The mystery deepened as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. The police were baffled, the families were distraught, and the community was left to wonder if they would ever see the three women again. As the search for answers continued, a haunting question lingered: what happened to Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy on that fateful night in June 1992? As the investigation into the disappearance of the three women continued, the police began to look into their personal lives, searching for any clues that might lead them to the truth. They interviewed friends and family members, scoured the house for any signs of evidence, and reviewed the women's phone records and bank statements. But every lead seemed to end in a dead end. The women's purses, wallets, and cash were still in the house untouched. Their cars were parked outside, keys still in the ignition. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. The police were baffled, and the families were left to wonder if they would ever see their loved ones again. One of the most intriguing aspects of the case was the sighting of Cheryl at a convenience store at 2:15 a.m., reportedly looking for her daughter and friend. But how could this be, when the girls were still at Janelle Kirby's house at that time? Was it a case of mistaken identity, or was Cheryl trying to send a message to someone? The timeline of events was becoming increasingly complex, with contradictory stories and unexplained sightings. As the police struggled to make sense of it all, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something. A small detail, a hidden clue, something that could crack the case wide open. But what was it? As the days turned into weeks, the search for answers continued, with the police following up on every lead, no matter how small. And then there was the mysterious phone call to Janelle Kirby's house, just hours after the women disappeared, a call that would change everything. The phone call to Janelle Kirby's house was made at around 9 a.m. on June 7. The caller was unknown, but the message was chilling. The person on the other end of the line made a series of obscene and threatening remarks, sending a wave of fear through the household. The police were immediately notified, and they began to investigate the call, trying to track down the person who made it. But as they dug deeper, they realized that the call was just one of many strange occurrences that had taken place in the days and weeks leading up to the disappearance. There were reports of suspicious vehicles seen around the neighborhood, and rumors of a strange person lurking in the area. It was as if the community was being watched, and the women's disappearance was just the tip of the iceberg. As the investigation continued, the police began to look into the backgrounds of the women, searching for any clues that might lead them to the truth. They discovered that Cheryl had been receiving strange phone calls in the days leading up to her disappearance, and that Susie had been acting nervous and on edge. It was as if they had been sensing something was wrong, but didn't know what it was. And then, there was the matter of the broken front porch light at Cheryl's house. It had been swept away before the police arrived, potentially destroying evidence. It was a small detail, but one that could be crucial in solving the case. As the investigation continued, the police began to focus on the suspects. There was Bart Streeter, Susie's older brother, who had a history of family estrangement and alcoholism. He had been questioned by the police, but his alibi for the night of the disappearance had checked out. Then there was Don LaFavor, Cheryl's husband, who had a rock-solid alibi and had been cooperative with the police. The police also looked into Dustin Reclaw, Susie's ex-boyfriend, who had a history of disturbing behavior and had been known to make threatening comments. But despite the suspicions, no one was ever charged in connection with the disappearance. The police were left with a list of unexplained events and a cast of characters who seemed to be hiding something. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, the case began to go cold. The police were no closer to finding the women, and the families were left to pick up the pieces. The disappearance of Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy had left a gaping hole in the community, and it seemed that the truth might never be known. But then, a new lead emerged, a tip that would take the investigation in a completely new direction and raise even more questions about what had really happened to the three women. The new lead came in the form of a tip about a suspicious person who had been seen around the neighborhood on the night of the disappearance. The person was described as a man with a medium build and brown hair, who had been driving a green van. The tip was vague, but it was enough to get the police interested. They began to canvass the neighborhood, showing the description to residents and asking if anyone had seen the man or the van. And then, a breakthrough. A witness came forward who claimed to have seen the van parked outside Cheryl House on the night of the disappearance. The witness described the van as being parked in a suspicious location and said that the driver had been acting nervously. The police were ecstatic. They had finally found a lead that could take them to the truth. They began to investigate the owner of the van and discovered that it was registered to a man named Robert Craig Cox. Cox had a history of violent behavior and had been known to make threatening comments to women. The police were convinced that they had found their man, but as they dug deeper, they realized that Cox had an alibi for the night of the disappearance. He had been at a friend's house, and several people could vouch for his presence. The police were back to square one. They had found a promising lead, but it had ultimately led to a dead end. The case was still unsolved, and the families of the missing women were still waiting for answers. As the police continued to investigate, they began to look into other suspects and leads. They spoke to friends and family members and followed up on tips from the public. But every lead seemed to end in a dead end. The case was growing cold, and the police were no closer to finding the missing women. The families were growing desperate, and the community was becoming increasingly frustrated. The disappearance of Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy had left a gaping hole in the lives of those who knew them, and it seemed that the truth might never be known. As the months turned into years, the case became a cold one. The police were still working on it, but the leads were dwindling and the hope of finding the women alive was fading. The families were left to pick up the pieces and try to move on with their lives, but the pain of not knowing what had happened to their loved ones would never fully heal. And then, in 1997, 5 years after the disappearance, the police made a shocking announcement. Cheryl and Susie were officially declared dead, and the case was closed. But Stacy's family refused to give up hope. They still believed that she was out there, somewhere, and they would continue to search for her until they found her. The case of the Springfield3 would go down in history as one of the most baffling and intriguing disappearances of all time, a reminder that sometimes the truth is never found, and the only thing left is the lingering question of what could have been. The declaration of death for Cheryl and Susie was a difficult pill to swallow for the families. They had held on to hope for so long, and the thought of never seeing their loved ones again was almost too much to bear. But they knew that it was a necessary step in the process of moving on. The police had done everything they could, and it was time to accept the reality of the situation. But for Stacy's family, the fight was far from over. They continued to search for her, scouring the countryside and following up on every lead, no matter how small. They knew that it was a long shot, but they couldn't give up hope. Not yet. As the years went by, the case of the Springfield3 became a legend in the true crime community. People from all over the world would reach out to the families, offering their support and sharing their own theories about what had happened. The case had become a phenomenon, with books, documentaries, and podcasts all exploring the mystery of the disappearance. But for the families, it was never about the fame or the attention. It was about finding the truth and bringing closure to the loved ones they had lost. And so, they continued to search, continued to hope, and continued to hold on to the memories of the 3 women who had vanished into thin air. The case of the Springfield3 may be closed, but the mystery will never be fully solved. The truth is still out there, waiting to be found, and the families will never give up hope that one day they will finally have the answers they so desperately seek. As the years go by, the case of the Springfield3 remains a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. The families of the missing women will never forget the day that their loved ones vanished, and the pain of not knowing what happened to them will always be a part of their lives. But even in the face of such tragedy, there is a sense of hope and resilience that defines the human spirit. The search for the truth may never be fully satisfied, but the pursuit of justice and the memory of the missing women will live on. The Springfield 3 may be gone, but they will never be forgotten. Their story is a testament to the power of love and the enduring bond between family and friends. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always a chance for closure and healing. And so, we remember Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy, 3 women who were taken from us far too soon. We remember their laughter, their smiles, and their bright spirits, and we honor their memory by continuing to search for the truth, no matter how elusive it may seem. The case of the Springfield 3 may be closed, but the memories of the missing women will live on, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of never giving up hope. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel more personally, consider becoming a member. It really means a lot and helps keep these stories coming. See you in the next one.